Hi, everyone. It's Monday, March 9th. It's 4 p.m. on the dot. This is a meeting of the Nantucket Finance Committee. And welcome, everyone. I'm going to do a call to order. Joanna Roche. Aye. Martin McCarroll.
Aye.
Joe Wright.
Yes.
Andy Gudeman.
Yep.
Peter Shaper.
Aye.
Chris Glowacki.
Here.
Jeremy Bloomer.
Aye.
And I'm just gonna announce who all's in the room, and forgive me if I don't know all your names, but I see Linda Williams here, taking up the helm for CPC. And Eleanor's with you, Eleanor Antnetti. David Gray is here for the enterprise funds. Bob, hi. Good. Michelle, hi, nice to meet you. And Charles, hi, Charles. Nice to see you. And online, we have Craig Piper, who's here to talk about our own home. He's the designer. We have John Lemieux. We have Mr. Giorgio. Thank you for being here, Mr. Giorgio.
My pleasure.
And we have Greg Tivnan and Sue Carmel from the finance office. We have Rick Sears, I believe. Tom Hammond from CLA, and we have the town manager. Thank you all for being here. Oh, and Stephen and Brian. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I always forget somebody. Forgive me. I take you for granted. I apologize. This meeting's being audio video recorded. Can I get an approval of the agenda real quick? We're not changing the agenda. Yeah.
Article 20, I believe we're moving.
Article 20. So we are going to take out Article 20 for today, and we're going to do that tomorrow. And with that amendment, can I get an approval of the agenda?
Second.
Joanna? Martin? Joe? Andy?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Jill's aye. I'm gonna open this up for public comment. And I'm gonna close public comment. We have a pretty full slate today, and we're gonna open up with Articles 33 and 34. We're gonna hear from Linda Williams and Eleanor. And I haven't seen the report. It wasn't in our packet. So I think Stephen's gonna put it up online.
Yes, Stephen will put the article up and then that will take you through what they recommended.
Great.
Okay.
And I believe we're not doing 34 anymore.
We will, the Finance Committee recommended motion will be to take no action on the article, so you will do that.
But that's the one where we have to go after everybody who's
Right.
got money left, and we don't have to go after over 50 applicants to get the money back, so. Okay, we'll get there,
Okay.
hopefully.
All right. Well, why don't you take us to our report with all the hard work our committee did over the winter?
The opening statements are pretty much, with some adjustments, are pretty much the same opening statements that we give you in the report every year. But obviously, the grantees are different, and we had,
You had a lot of different applications this year, didn't you?
yeah, that was gonna pick us up. If you want us to come to the table.
Please come to the table. That would be great.
Because I know from previous meetings in here, the owl doesn't reach that far.
Good.
Moment.
Oh, you too? Yeah.
Right, direct, I got one right behind.
There you go.
Okay, Steve. Yes, can we send the article right now? Put it in the meeting, or just email it to everybody right now.
Not right now. I'm not logged in.
Oh, there we go.
I'll just send it to you right now.
Okay.
Somebody has.
Can't have a meeting here without that happening.
No, I just muted him. He's good.
All right, Linda, I think.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, this is our 25th year in existence. And we've given over 54 million, if not more, not including the 15 million in bonds for affordable housing that they're paying at the moment. We haven't paid for number 3, but number 1 and number 2 had to be
I'm sorry,
included.
I can't hear.
25th year of existence. We've given away over 54 million in grants, not including the 15 million in bonds that we have. We are now servicing bond 1 and bond 2, and we have not had to service bond 3 yet until probably next year or the year after that. So this year we had what, almost 8-9 million in requests for about 4 million in. Okay. We did have
8,963 original amounts,
8,900,000 and change.
and
for
that's
request.
20 in the original applications, which was whittled down to
17. We had one that didn't qualify, one withdrew, and one we felt was premature. So we were actually funding 17 of these things. Obviously, a lot in historic preservation this year, which is more than we normally have in historic preservation. That was almost 2.8 million. Because some of these are continuing, like Landmark House, the old mill is in phasing. And the candle factory has been phased over time, which is the old Whaling Museum, and we had,
hospital.
Nantucket Seaview Farms and Nantucket School of Design. They asked last year, we thought it was premature, but this year we granted them the money. We have a farm, 4 from the town in conjunction with various other entities. Things that are long overdue. They want to finish phase 2 for Westmire Comet neighborhood, which is south of Maine. We gave them money for the first phase. Traditionally, they don't get any money for the support services for the HDC or historic preservation. Building with Nantucket in mind is 40 years overdue on being updated. The original approval for them some years ago was not enough, and so we augmented it this year so we can finally get that done and hire somebody who's a professional for it. The aerial scanning projects are essential because we have 1938s, 1940s, 1957s, and 1995s that are not being preserved, and they're beginning to degrade. And those aerials are used for historic preservation, they're used for research, they're used for all kinds of stuff. Kind of important. The First Congregational Church is continuing the work on the Old North Vestry, which is the oldest, if not one of the oldest buildings on Nantucket. It's one of the, it is the oldest church on Nantucket, and one of the oldest churches still in service in the country. The old mill, I might point out, is the last remaining functioning mill in the country. So there's a lot of things on Nantucket that are kind of critical to preserve. We have more pre-Civil War structures in use than anywhere else in the country. We're not Williamsburg or Sturbridge or any of those, the many, Mystic, which nobody lives in, but we live in it. The Folger Block Condominium Trust building was that building that's on the corner of Main and Orange. That really unusual building is the only one in Nantucket like it. We funded them the last couple of years, one for research, one for something that needs to be done immediately, and this is a big ask from them, and this should help. They're going to be working with David, I believe, on trying to figure out how to deal with the runoff, because it's kind of a juncture there.
Charles and Dave.
Yep. Hospital.
So is
thrift
it
shop.
for their portion of that building? Sorry, I couldn't make that.
Well, Remain is one tenant.
Right.
There is, the Folger Block is the condominium unit that owns the whole building. So they had to come in, there has been some issue with the funding of it. What's the name? It's not Remain. They put it in for everybody in the building. But it's the Folger Block Condominium Trust, which is getting the money for this. So they'll preserve an icon of a building. And people wonder about public access. Under the act, if there is a significant structure that's in the public domain, like an anchor building on Main Street or some other historic structure, that is allowed to be preserved with CPC funding, even if the public's not going in and out like they do at the Whaling Museum. And the public is allowed in the building. We had a long discussion about that. The hospital thrift shop this is their 3rd or 4th time in here, and they've been nickel and diming themselves. They only come in for 20 grand, 15 grand, stuff like that. But they really needed to HVAC that building because an old structure without being able to be heated and air conditioned will disintegrate. And so they've been phenomenal stewards of this building. And if you can't figure out how the public's accessing that building year round.
And can I just say something else?
Heavy, yeah.
The other thing about with this as an example, their order of operations has been very sensible and pragmatic. They've come in with structural integrity improvements, and now this is sort of presumably the final thing, and this will seal the deal to really, like ensure all the work we've funded to date and that they've co-funded is gonna be retained, maintained, preserved.
The panic splits in all throughout, or what are they gonna do for HVAC?
We don't get involved with exactly the technical aspect of what they're gonna do, but they've been working with people to try to figure out how to do it without creating something that doesn't work with an historic structure. But they have a whole back addition that's probably gonna be in the back, because remember, the back is elevated.
Yeah.
So it's probably
Stuff
gonna
in
be
the
back
attic.
there. They don't have enough room on both sides.
Yeah.
They're pretty tight on their setbacks on the main part of the building. We're working with Sankaty Headlight again. We've done a lot with them over the years, and now they need to fix the stucco, the paint, the stairs, the metal stairs. Anybody who's climbed to the top of that, it's kind of sketchy going up those stairs. So they're gonna replace and modify and fix things that they need to fix to keep it going. So that was 2,795,648.52. Oh yeah, we had,
Do
that's it
you want
for
to
that.
take any questions now? Does
Any of this stuff here?
I have a quick question.
Chris,
I don't recall seeing as many town grants in the past. Are there restrictions on what can be funded for the town, or the town can apply?
They can apply for whatever they
So they
want.
can apply to repair the town, the Broad Street Town Building, for instance?
If it's historic preservation.
Yeah.
Which is how these are all coming in.
Mhm.
And they've been working on these 4 applications. 2 of them are with Penn. And they've been working on these 4 and been trying to get them in while we have the funding.
Okay.
And they had the bandwidth this year to actually put them in.
Mhm.
But if the town were to, we've worked with the town a lot on open space and recreation.
Mhm,
We've
sure.
done at least 4 or 5 of these playgrounds since we started
Mhm.
in 01. And now they can come back and have the playgrounds redone because we did them. If they were coming in for a playground that CPC didn't get involved with, we couldn't fund it. And now we're working with them on the fields, which you'll see coming up here. So the town we've worked very closely with the town. They've had a lot of money from us.
Right.
To give you an example, the flagpole that was hit in Sconset,
Mhm.
we funded that because it was historic. And we funded the railing when that got hit on the monument at the top of Main Street there. So we've worked very closely with the town, particularly the Parks and Rec.
Town clerk.
Town clerk, we do a lot with the town clerk. We have a lot of money in the assessor's office now to preserve those microfilm in their 1975 aerials. Rob just hard getting them going. But we're using pretty much the same people we used with them with Browns River, but they have a different name now down in Connecticut. And they've done the Athenaeum stuff with us. They've done the town clerk with us. They're gonna do his stuff. So we have a pretty long relationship with the town on multiple
Thank you.
issues.
Peter, do you have a question?
Yeah, who owns the Landmark House? The government?
It's town land. And I believe the town owns the Landmark House, but it's managed by NCEA, which is a private nonprofit that also owns the building at Saltmarsh.
The council on elder affairs.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure. But
I'm
I
just
believe
trying
the
to
town
figure out
owns the land.
What responsibility do we have to maintain the building?
Right.
Because as people come into that building
It's
all
a-
over the country,
It's
You want to
a
let Libby
store-
answer?
it's historic.
Libby,
Yeah.
you want to weigh in?
Yes, please. It is owned by Nantucket Community Services, not NCEA. They run it. We have a long-term lease with them for the property. We have zero involvement in any kind of maintenance of the building whatsoever. If they want to add on to it or something like that, it would come to us for approval for additional property use, but that's about it.
And we funded the windows replacement, we funded the shingling, we funded, I believe, the
ramp.
roof, the ramp is the latest
Roof.
one.
Ramp.
Ramp, windows, shingling, the handicap ramp, the elevator inside the building would deteriorate. And that building was really old because it was moved in as the Alms House from way out on Pulpus Road. They moved that whole big building into that location. And it was a debtor's, sort of a debtor's hostel at one point. And then it became obviously this after the home was built, and then they used it for disabled and elderly people. And it's full. They got lists, a long, long list
Yeah.
over there.
Jeremy, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Maybe this is a question for Brian, but I believe it aggregates $5 million on one of the things I've got. And I was curious, how much of all of that does the town fund, or are you asking the town to fund versus from the state program? Because it's not clear to me.
The town doesn't fund any of it except through the assessment on the taxes, registry of deeds, things like that. The town is not responsible for any of this. We get a kickback from the state. Brian can answer this, but we get a regular kickback from the state. When we first were put into place in 2001, we almost got 100% match. Because so many other towns, over 130, I believe, have come into it, including Boston and Springfield. We don't get 100% match anymore. So we had several more $1 million to deal with back in the first 4 or 5 years until everybody else started saying, oh, great, this is a wonderful thing to do. And that's why we get less of a match. So we hover around 4 million, but Brian can tell you that between the interest and everything else.
Through you, Madam Chair, to answer the question. So you're correct, Jeremy, there's about $5 million in funding. We're projecting that the surcharge on the tax bill, the 3% surcharge on the real and personal property tax bill will raise a little over 3 million. We're projecting that of the state matching funds collected in 26 that we get in 27 will generate approximately 850,000. We're taking CPC has proposed taking 382,000 from their open space reserves. And then we're estimating about $93,000 in interest. And then the remainder of this funding to close the gap between those available funding sources and the proposed expenditures for the projects, we would fund from undesignated reserves, which CPC is proposing using $640,954 from their undesignated fund balance.
And how much is that total reserve they have?
We have
Right
another
around,
2 million after that.
And so does that $2 million, Brian, what does that represent? Is that an accounting indice, or is there cash sitting somewhere?
well, there's cash sitting somewhere because it represents additional interest income that may have come in that we hadn't anticipated. It comes in with collections on any past due CPC charges if people owe taxes. The CPC charges are also collected for any prior years and/or depending on the collections in 26, the state could do more than one allocation of CPC funds, and we budget a certain amount. And if that comes in after, that all flows into the undesignated. So that is cash that is sitting in the CPC designated account.
And many years ago, Ken Bogrand, through you, Madam Chair, and Ken Bogrand, our fearless leader, we started putting money away in undesignated reserves in case the town opted out of CPC. No town has opted out yet, but we're one of the third longest ones in the state. And we were, if there was an emergency, or in this case, we had so many applicants that needed to be funded and finished projects, that we were able to actually fund them out of undesignated reserves, plus whatever surplus is left from the 200,000 we have to legally put away for administration. If
Got
we
it. So just,
50,000,
so-
it goes into that.
just to understand then, there is a $2 million cash account that is your undesignated reserves. And this would take 600,000 and change from that. And then, Brian, just remind me again, please, the 3% that aggregates a little over $3 million. What is that a fee on?
That's 3% on the tax bill.
Okay, so 3% of the whole tax bill is the $3 million.
Correct.
And that's conservative. We've always gone on, Brian's always suggested that we, through you, Madam Chair, to go on the side of being conservative, which is why if anything else comes in, it's fine. I wanted to clarify something. 2 million and change is what is left after we take the 640 out. We have over 640 in undesignated reserves. which results in us having a little over 2 million still remaining after we take the money out. And as Brian,
So just to be clear, what you're really asking for in all of this is for the finance committee to give approval to a little over $3 million from the surcharge.
no, that's required by law.
You're, through you, Madam Chair, the the Finance Committee is being asked to approve a motion to authorize these expenditures, and below the expenditure request, we detail how we propose raising the funding to cover the $5,023,854.73 of expenditures that they're proposing for the projects as outlined.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, Linda.
You want me to finish?
Oh, can I ask one more question
Yeah.
about the first section, just the Sconset Trust?
Yep.
Do they, maybe not just them, but do they have to disclose like their own financials when they come to you and apply?
The application, I ask anybody who's really interested in how extensive these applications are to go to the CPC website and take a look at the application for funding.
It's like an entire notebook.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive because she's had to do it. but it's
Martin's had to
pretty,
do it too.
yeah, it's pretty extensive. That includes all their tax filings, that includes their board members, that includes references, includes support letters.
Yeah.
It's pretty, these
But
are,
do you factor
balance.
in what their balances are, what their cash balances are when you
No,
give
what
money
we
like that?
do factor in sometimes is what's their ability to raise funds on their own? Or are they healthy and could fund this themselves kind of thing? We do
That's why I'm
talk
asking about the
that.
Sconset Trust. They, don't they have a,
No, they
No.
don't,
they
No.
don't,
because they bought a couple of pieces of property out there.
gotcha.
So
Depending on.
they gotta be able to have a flow of cash, and most of these nonprofits, because of certain various cuts at the state as well as the federal level, they don't have a cash flow. That's not tied up in something hard.
I
like
would
that,
say we
like-
do take that into consideration.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, I know I do.
We discussed it with two applicants. in
Yeah, I
particular.
mean, I push back on certain things. I'm like, this
Yeah.
organization has
Plenty.
a lot of support.
And I pushed back on one in particular, and the board felt that they deserved it. Wasn't a very big nut, and we had been working with them since their inception to maintain handicap accessibility and fire prevention. So
Yeah.
we do know some organizations are flush. But then again, they may not have as much capital available at any given time.
Right, they might be landowner.
And we also encourage them where eligible in the case of preservation in particular, like Holly's been helpful in providing information about, certain tax exemptions and other grant sources, grant funding sources with MHC and so forth for preservation related projects. So if
Right, there
you
might
can't
be
fund something
something else.
entirely, look, there's this
Yeah.
other avenue you can pursue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Keep
So
going.
when it gets to housing, we have one every year, which is the Interfaith Council Nantucket Rental Assistance Program, which has been very successful. Because we had $4 million to spend, there's our.
Excuse me, is this another warrant item or?
It's all the same,
All the
article,
same article.
but they divide, how they delineate who they give the money to, they set it up by sections, so it's housing.
Because we
historic
have to,
Preservation and open space.
yeah. So they're getting 400,000, the Nantucket Racket Sports. This may be the last time they come to us. We have been working with them to get enough capital to actually do the project. Because we always end up not having enough money to fund the whole project.
Mhm.
So they've been basically stockpiling with the understanding that, eventually we're gonna get to the end of it, and this is the end of it. So they're beginning to start now.
No, they're underway.
Yeah, underway. So that was 400, and then the Loring Foundation. This is the one where it was fire prevention. And we'd rather they get going on this fire prevention, because where they want to actually concentrate is right up against Fisher's Landing.
Mhm.
And some of the other dwellings around them, and when you have an awful lot of brush and handicap can't get to those areas, they have to clear them. So that was this one. This is one of their smaller asks. Then the Parks and Rec came to us. And we had a great deal of discussion about the Parks and Rec with these fields, and having been on one of the volunteers who created these fields over 30, Collins 35 years ago. They are in bad shape. We had to keep rotating those fields because I was an umpire and a coach out there of Little League, and we just rotated, and then lacrosse wanted to use it, and someone else wanted to use it. And the fields are disintegrating, the bleachers are disintegrating, and he wants to do an overall redo of those fields, which are long overdue. Now the FAA or the airport owns the property, but they allowed us to use it for, 35 years. And so that's why Charles came to us, because that was a big ask.
So we think that they're gonna keep letting us use the property for
Yeah, oh yeah,
perpetuity,
forever.
putting this
And
much
for
money
my
in.
growth.
But they have problems with the geese and
Everything
e-bikes
else,
and.
yeah. So they're gonna do an
Deer.
awful lot, fencing, they're gonna do bleachers, they're gonna be backstops, they're gonna do all kinds of stuff out there. Replant the fields, so hopefully that'll improve the situation out there. But that was a new one. Mass Audubon was a new one, and we gave them enough money to improve their public access. So that's where it all came from.
And invasives,
And what
and invasive.
invasive species, yeah, which are seem to be rampant. Deer are invasive species. Then we had to service the two bonds at 350,000, and we're mandated to require the 5%, so 200,000 for operating and administrative expenses, and that's where the $5,023,854.73 came from. And Brian already broke down where we're getting, which part of our nut is it's all coming from.
Yeah, Jeremy always likes to jump ahead.
We're happy to answer.
Great. Do we have any more questions from the committee on this? There's some really interesting applications this year, I think.
Yeah, there were a couple of really cool ones from last year too.
I thought the historic stuff was really. Good. Anybody?
Well, we've done a lot of work for Miranda Mitchell, which she knows the paintings and the dome and the handicap access, and well, we've worked very closely with Miranda Mitchell. They didn't need us this year. 'Cause they got-
And doesn't the program have a constraint that you have to do roughly a third, and a third between open space and
Yeah,
Minimum.
historic and then some third?
Do 10%
10%.
between historic preservation, 10% in open space, and 10% in, what's this?
affordable
Minimum.
housing.
Affordable housing.
That's a minimum.
That's a
minimum.
Yeah,
minimum, so
and then the rest-
30% has to be used in total between those three categories, 10 each. And the remainder can be allocated as the committee sees fit in their discretion.
So the
Got
seven,
it.
you go.
That's why that 400,000 went to housing. She normally asks us for half as much as she needs, and we said, stop that. Just come in and ask us for the whole thing.
Right.
And they run out of money in March every year.
All right,
And this is always where they have to spend the money first, and this is a reimbursement program, isn't that
Yeah.
correct?
There's a form where they have to keep a running total of what they've asked for, what they've spent, and what's left, and what this one is. The project manager usually has to sign off on them. Then I have to sign them all as the chairman. And then they have to give us the copy of the bills and the checks. So it just doesn't go flowing out there unless they've actually expended the funds.
And the project manager goes and inspect, like if they're asking for reimbursement for X phase or X step, then we'll, I as a project manager will go to the property and see that that's been done.
Yeah.
According to the invoice, they're looking for reimbursement for.
And I'm on most of I'm the project manager for most of the historic preservation, no surprise there.
we hope so. We know it's gonna be done properly, Linda. Can I entertain a motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, second.
Joanna,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Anthony, Peter, Chris,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
and Jill's and I.
I just want to tell you, one of the most beautiful things we funded last year was the sanctuary for the Catholic Church. That was all CPC funding, that whole restoration of that building. And it couldn't have been more beautiful. It was the most difficult building I've ever seen restored, frankly. But it looks stunning.
That's,
So we're really, that's one of our,
thank you.
hallmarks of what the CPC can do, besides all the churches. And the only reason, I'll point that out, the only reason we can afford, do stuff with the churches, the only church we haven't worked on is the Summer Street. Is because we can't consider that they're religious institutions. There was a lawsuit brought up south of Boston that went after it because they said it was a religious institution. These are, because of where we are, these are absolutely historic structures that are used for many different community events, particularly the Congo Church and the Unitarian Church. And under that guise, we can help those churches maintain their historic structures. We've done all the Trump layout on both of those buildings. The bell was us, totally us. And that was an emergency ask.
But Summer Street's the warming place, like why wouldn't that be?
They never come in. So, that's not affordable housing, but it could come in under affordable housing, so depending on what's happening there. But I've asked them if they wanted to come in, because they're the only ones we haven't worked with. We've done everything at the Methodist Church, everything at the Congo, everything at the Unitarian, including the exteriors of those churches. And St. Paul's, we did the windows, the roof, the addition, the handicap, and we're St. Mary's, we've done St. Mary's. And for some reason, Summer Street doesn't come in, and they need a little assistance on that structure.
Well, it's an important investment in the community.
Yeah,
Very
these are
iconic. That would
all
really change our-
these are
It's
major.
just a terrific property.
Yes,
A
it's
really,
really-
That
it
is-
have to have a really big application.
Well, any one of us, myself, our staff beforehand, Eleanor, Joe, we're all available. I get a lot of calls around application time. It's just they're due in by the first Friday of September every year. But we may extend that only because people are crazed during the summer and everybody's having trouble getting into that first Friday. We had to take a couple later in the day. So we're gonna have to have that discussion.
We did it last year.
Yeah, we did it last year. We extended it. So most of us are available for anybody who wants to ask. I'll go visit a bunch of places that sort of guide them as to where they have to go. All of us, Eleanor, we're all out there for everybody. This is my 25th year.
Thank you.
Yes, you. Thank
Thank you for your support.
And you can do this.
Thank you for your service.
Okay,
Art-
thanks for coming in person. I appreciate it. Sure.
We have just to go after this one, we have staff. We have staff we can go after. Brian showed us a spreadsheet, which I still need to get. Showing us how many people have money that they haven't spent all the way, because sometimes the projects end earlier, they don't need as much.
Right.
We've got probably over 100 grand, if not more. Of stuff we have to get back, but the process is you gotta email them. I have to talk to you about the contracts.
Yes.
But we have to email them. And ask them to send a letter back that they're done with their projects. They may even forget that they have the money there still. But this requires a lot of time. And we need to hire staff to actually hunt down all that money, because I recognize some that Brian showed us, so. That would be on next year's one, because we just clearly don't have time to do it this year.
So it has not been done as of yet, Madam Chair,
You were
so
forecasting.
the motion would be to take no action on the article.
I get a motion.
Move to take no action.
Second.
Joanna?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Joe? Andy? Peter? Chris? Jeremy?
I,
And Jill's and I.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all you're doing. It's a lot of
We'll just
detail.
keep going in the spirit of Ken Bobrand, we'll just keep.
Yes.
Good old
Amen. Article 2, unpaid bills.
I want to commend all the departments across the enterprise funds and the general fund. People really worked really hard last year to make sure that we didn't have many. There's 19,000 in the general fund. Unfortunately, the largest resides in the finance office, which was a result of transition in the risk management consultant that we use for our insurance. They merged themselves with a couple different entities and then didn't send out invoices for work timely enough, so they unfortunately are on there, and they have assured me they will do better this year. Airport has a couple totaling $540. Island Home has one for WellSky, which I believe is a software program, is that correct? At the time the bill came late after we had asked for it. Sewer has a small one for Granger. And then Community Preservation Committee has one for $1,000 that they received late. So the funding sources are for the general fund, it's from free cash. From the airport, sewer, and Island Home, it's from retained earnings. And for CPC, the recommendation is from their undesignated fund balance to pay for that.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Move to approve.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Joanna?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeremy?
I,
And Jill's and I. Excellent. Article 3.
Sure, so prior year articles. We're requesting to make some transfers here. we want to transfer the money in a revolving fund into a different revolving fund because we're no longer using this community recreation programming revolving fund, and the money was generated by when the school was managing the tennis courts for us, we created a revolving fund for them to use. They're no longer managing them, so the money should be back where it belongs, which is in the tennis court revolving. The airport has a variety of transfers as outlined here, that they want to transfer into various, primarily into the groundwater and soil investigation account. If you remember, they have a borrowing authorization, but typically at every town meeting for these types of articles, they take from capital that has been approved and no longer needed, or from retained earnings to help fund it, so they're not accessing that borrowing. And they have a long list here of projects that they would like to transfer. And then they're using some retained earnings to transfer into various projects that have been approved.
This is a lot, and I haven't seen this until now, and I wonder if we wanna wait and.
From tomorrow,
I
are they on?
It's a long list, right? It's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They are not on.
I mean, and also the terminal, go back to the seasonal terminal because
That's actually
That's-
terminal improvements.
yeah, which they aren't doing.
So they're.
They are doing, they're working on it.
I thought they said they were ready to pause on that.
South Apron expansion.
How did these things come in so much less than what was budgeted?
The
Or they
capital,
just didn't do them?
no, they did all the capital articles, but they have unexpended funds because their estimate was more than what
So
the actual
personal
fund.
improvements.
No, they're moving money from retained earnings in that to offset costs so that they don't have to borrow.
And what about the South Apron? The one that was a little below.
This is at the end of the
They're moving
financial
back
year
from that.
shuffle.
Or it's to pay.
It's to pay instead of borrowing.
It's to pay off it because they have
But
dams
from the
coming due and
was the
they're using
2023
retained earnings to
authorization
pay
or
off the
something?
borrowing, so that they don't actually end up
Yes.
with borrowing the money.
Yeah.
That's what they're using these funds to do.
I'd be more comfortable if I could take a look at it tonight, bring it back tomorrow, because
Yep.
I haven't seen it and.
That's fine.
I'm not saying it's gonna change the outcome, but.
That's
just-
fine, we can add it to, I mean, and then the only other thing is solid waste. We. In 2020, we allocated a variety of money, or 2019, excuse me. We allocated a variety of money specifically for the MRF itself,
Yeah.
okay? And we then, in 2019, we had allocated some, so what we're trying to do is consolidate all of this into what we're calling the landfill facility repairs and maintenance account from all of these aggregate places, so that they have because we own the entire facility now, and and Waste Options operates it for us, we're responsible for the repairs and maintenance. And solid waste does need one account that they can go to, that they can access money for not only the materials recovery facility, but for the C&D building or the composter. So we're trying to take these that were specifically allocated specifically for the MRF that have not been done and likely are not going to be done, and allocate these into this other article from 2020, but also want to change the name specifically to landfill facility repairs and maintenance, so it's broad enough to encompass the entirety of the complex.
Mhm.
So this is money that was budgeted.
This was money that was approved at prior town meetings and has not been spent, and we're trying to put it into one fund, combining all of it, so that when Chris Lowe, the manager of the solid waste program, or Drew Patton at the DPW, there's a repair that we need to be done. We have the money available to do it, and it will cover the encompass the entire facility.
But it's
But
not
it-
necessarily a word for word,
We're changing the name to
Change,
give
so-
us a little bit of a
yes,
broader.
so they have to do with your town meeting because it's, the money was authorized for something specific.
Well,
And now
we
he's
need to
putting it
change
to a more general fund.
Yes.
So it's still for maintenance, but it's not as specific, it's
But
specifically what was
basically,
approved at the
you're
previous
also-
town meeting.
We're also saying that, we're not placing the overhead door, and we're not, doing the fire alarm improvement, and we're not doing the facility sprinkler system, so.
We could be doing them, but what this does is it gives us the fund in one fund, so that if the doors came, that's a bad example probably, but if the sprinkler system came in more than we had allocated, we have the availability to do it.
Yeah, good reason why I wanna read this tonight, because we just, in our capital report, we have money for the doors. So, but maybe those are different doors. So again, I just would like to read
That's
it
fine.
tonight.
Go.
I'll wait till
Yeah.
tomorrow. This is kind of a way of.
These things come up at town meeting. People do ask this stuff because they feel like moving money around and
I think
they.
they lost
It's not
about
my
12
fault.
million versus the 231,000.
Yeah.
Therefore, yeah.
And so what is the whole number for this article then?
We don't have a total, but it's 200.
My thoughts, but it's still.
What number is this?
It's just solid
12
waste.
and 200, so it's
Yeah.
like about 12.
I will note that this is consistent with the way the airport does it though. To finalize and pay off any of the borrowings that they have. So it's not inconsistent with the methodology and the plan that we have developed with them.
No, I know. I just think it's flat. I just, I
Under-
wanna read that.
understood.
Never
I
seen it.
just-
Yeah. Great.
Is it usual that airports, small airports like this have these kind of overruns?
Well, I wouldn't call them overruns because what they're doing is all of this is primarily being transferred to those capitals to pay off the short-term borrowings that they would have done so that they don't turn into long-term borrow. And this is, since when Tom Rafter started and when I started here, this was the program that we developed that they authorized primarily the majority, if not all of their programs with borrowings. And then they use their retained earnings as they get certified to pay the short-term borrowings. The borrowings are authorized for short-term cash flow purposes. And then they do this. So this is consistently the way the airport has done it. I certainly respect and understand the largesse of the number, but it is the same program that's been followed for years with them.
So they made a good amount of money.
Against the airport business.
So,
It's actually fuel sales where they make the money.
Yeah.
the excess fuels that goes into there or landing fees and employments, yeah.
Largest gas station on the island, for sure.
Yeah, with the most expensive gas.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to Article 11, if we're gonna hold this till tomorrow.
That's okay.
Madam-
That's what I'd like to do.
Madam Chair, that's fine. I completely
Can
understand.
you all email that to us? too?
Yeah, we'll do it in.
Okay, who is going to lead our discussion on Arlen Home?
I believe that the town manager is gonna start.
Great.
And then we will work from there. Madam Chair.
I was just gonna give a brief overview to kick it off. At its meeting on December 10th, 2025, the select board voted to include this project on the warrant. And by this project, I mean the project that is described on this webpage and in all of the documentation we've been putting out so far, that having the idea is if the town is going to continue in the long-term nursing care business as a service offered to the community, it would be on Nantucket with this facility as proposed. And this is our project page that we're showing you. It has a lot of information on it. We also have a slide to show you which breaks down the appropriation. As an aside, the select board in November asked for a pro forma review of what the operational cost of the new facility would be. So we have our consultant from CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, online, I think, is online to review that with you. And I think you got something in your packet about it. Hopefully you did. And we're happy to answer questions about the project as proposed. Also, the board did, as part of its discussion in December, indicate that it wanted to be very clear that if the project does not get approved, if it does not receive the required voter approvals, then ultimately the current facility will continue probably for a period of time, but then it would have to close at some point. We don't know when exactly that would be. We have had more than one presentation from our Island Home administrator as to what it means to close the facility, and it's pretty involved. There are some costs associated with it, and it would take a phase out. But that is what would happen if this project does not get approved at town meeting. So I think we'll turn it over to, if you have, if you have any questions about this slide, okay. Never mind. But if there are any questions about that slide, we can go back to it, and, we're happy to take you through the, this presentation here.
I think those numbers were the same from last year, so.
They
yeah,
are the same. Oh, I should mention, the project is out to bid. We have gotten some sub bids back. And John Lemieux, our OPM, is, I think, online and he can answer any questions about the bids and the procurement and the timing.
Great, John, do you, well,
do we want to put that slide up first and go through that one?
To the other slide.
Yeah, sure. You put the other slide up first. Perfect.
We haven't seen this yet, have we?
this, yeah,
It's a 46-page package. 36 pages.
I believe you saw this slide last year.
Yeah.
It's the same slide.
Yes,
Yeah, there's only one minor change is that the proposed offsets have been reduced
I was
slightly.
gonna ask about the sewer, and you,
Yeah, so we're proposing 7 million from the OIH retained earnings to contribute towards this. Primarily, one of the focuses would be the medical equipment, and the FF&E would be paid for that, and then the remainder would go to other costs. And then 500,000 from the housing revolver that when you approved in Article 4 for the revolving fund for the Hillside Apartments. 500,000 of that would be used to move the structures, would contribute towards the move of the structures at Sherburne Commons to Hillside. So that's the sewer revolver. It's the housing revolver that we approve there. So the net approximately 118,392,000. The proposal in the warrant article itself is 119 million. Okay.
thank you.
So we're happy to entertain any questions on that, but this is consistent.
I have something
With-
that says, so it shows a debt portion of 125.5 million.
That's the presentation.
yeah, I feel like was that sewer revolver there last year?
Those are
Did that
numbers
change?
that I've never seen.
Well, the 125, I think, includes the 8.5 million plus the borrowing that we would be doing, whatever the remainder is of the borrow.
That's what the debt service is gonna be on. It's, and the interest
Correct.
rate is 3.5%-ish.
Give or take, yes.
And
But at
50
town meeting, the borrowing authorization that we're requesting is 119 million. In the calculation that you're looking at in that paper, it takes into account the 119 million or 118 roughly, plus the remaining debt that has not been permanently borrowed from the 8.5 million to get all the way up to the 125 million, because the full 8.5 million has not been fully borrowed yet.
But the
Gotcha.
8.5 million was authorized in
Correct, but it has-
2022.
but it
I
has-
thought
You-
that had
so
all
you've gotta
been
It
Yeah.
has
include
not been,
whatever's
it
left.
has not been permanent. The majority of it has not been permanently borrowed because it was not incurred until in the last 18 months, whatever that was, and we were waiting to see if the project has been approved, because if it doesn't get approved, my amortization of that 8.5 million changes versus if the project does get approved,
And you don't spend it.
and we don't, right, correct.
I get it.
So for me, so that's really why, so whatever the balance of that is that you have.
That's why
spent,
that's
that's what you
125 in CLA, because there's still a remainder of 8.5 that hasn't been built or
Right,
yet.
so that will be on top of the 118.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we don't totally know exactly what that number is gonna be, but it's probably is something closer to 25.
Well, the total borrowing approved, if both sections are, one has already been approved, if this is approved, the total finance cost
Yeah.
is gonna be that number. I mean, that's,
But if the bid that comes in,
Mhm,
which is a certain number,
mhm.
is higher than that number or this number?
It had, then the 119.
So if it's more than 119, yeah. Yeah,
Well, you'll probably share that with everyone in a similar way, right? You're gonna have the project cost, the appropriation, the borrowing.
Well, it's right there for everybody to see.
I know, but if
Yeah.
it comes in different, you're probably gonna see it in the
They're
same
two
format.
different presentations.
Yeah.
Right, they are two different,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the point.
that, yeah,
Because that's what we have to look at today. You didn't go through both, that's why you haven't seen that yet.
And if we approve it, we're essentially authorizing a cash loss of $16 million a year.
Well, let's let
For 15
CLA go
years.
through their
Let's go
part of
through the
it.
pro forma, let's have him
I
talk
don't-
about it, yeah.
We're gonna let CLA go through the presentation and discuss it, because the directive from the select board was go out and find somebody to go through this. We presented the number, we gave them the numbers to put in their model, and they used their expertise to develop it. So we're gonna let them
At a
present that.
maximum build up,
Yes, and based on the plan that the select board told us to go forward with.
yes.
So.
Okay, so let's go through that, because that's really the only new information that I'm aware of
Correct.
since last year.
All right. Well, nice to meet everyone. I'm Tom Hammond from Clifton Larson Allen. I am a director and lead our financial modeling and forecasting team. Over the past 3 months, we've been working with both our Island Home Management and a few people on this call to build out the forecast based on the assumptions that we know today. We can pass through the first 2 slides pretty quickly. They are legal disclaimers. Essentially saying we're not lawyers. This is pure advisory related matters. There are no assurances related to this work, as it is a forecast, and in the nature of a forecast, there will be a use of hypothetical assumptions, and this represents our beliefs to the best of our knowledge today. So let's go to the next slide. This lays out the assumptions that go into the pro forma. When you go through an exercise like this, we need to understand the operational side as well as the financing. What we just discussed was the financing. The majority of these assumptions here talk about the operational assumptions with a new Our Island Home facility. That first box on the left side of the screen represents or lets us know that this is assuming a starting period of year 1 in 2028 and 2029. So these numbers are inflated for 28 and 2029 dollars. The assumptions that go into our revenue are as follows. We are assuming 45 private rooms, that 42 of them are occupied. That's a 93% stabilized occupancy percentage throughout the year. Between those 42 ADC or average daily census, there is 10 private pay census, 9 Medicare, and 23 Medicaid. Those rates at a starting point in 2028 are forecasted at $800 a day for private pay, $800 a day for Medicare, $260 a day for Medicaid. That yields $7.6 million of operating revenues in year 1. Our operating expenses are $11.8 million. We are using our Island Homes existing operations as a baseline for our operating expenses. So what is our Island Home currently spending to operate today? And with those current expenses, we make assumptions around what sort of savings or additional costs would we incur with a new facility. We'll get to those in a moment. The forecast assumptions, so the middle section on the table on the right, discusses what happens after year 1. So on the revenue side, private pay rates are increasing at 3% a year. Medicare and Medicaid rates are increasing at 2% a year. We assume occupancy stays flat at that 93% or 42 average daily census for the year. Our labor costs grow at 5.5% a year. That is broken out between wages as well as other benefits. So our wages are increasing by 4% a year. Insurance costs and the retirement obligation are estimated to increase at 10% a year. Non-operating costs are growing at 3% a year. The summary of that is what we call a spread, or our operating environment is losing 2.3% a year. So our revenue is not keeping up with the growth in our expenses. Then that last section is strategic assumptions. This is what management has identified as potential cost savings or additional costs that would be incurred due to a new facility. So one of the key strategies here is reducing contract labor. The intention would be to reduce one role or one FTE worth of contract labor and bring on a regular staffed a nurse. There would be savings of about $100,000 that flows into the model or into the pro forma. There would be an additional housekeeping FTE for $100,000 cost. There would be utility savings due to a net zero a new facility, and that would equate to $155,000 in year one. That number grows year over year as savings or utilities costs would increase. Then there would be savings on repairs and maintenance with a new facility of $40,000 per year. There would have to be additional therapy costs with our increased number of private pay residents. That would equate to approximately $100,000 annually. That last section, those are total capital project costs of $134.4 million. The finance portion we have here at $125.5 million. If we go to the next slide, this slide is a visual representation of that pro forma and really highlights the big buckets here of what revenue would be, what expenses would be, and the annual investment from the town. So the top graph, working from left to right, you'll see a top number of $7.62 million. That represents total operating revenues. The blue box represents, light blue box represents Medicaid revenue of $2.1 million, Medicare revenue of $2.6 million, private pay revenue of $2.9 million. Those numbers will increase over time due to those rate increases that we have modeled from that prior slide. Annual operating expenses, the yellow box represents non-labor costs of $2.7 million and labor costs of $9.1 million. Those are growing annually based on the inflation assumptions from the prior slide. The bottom graph there represents total investment from the town of $14.8 million, which increases annually due to debt service, which is the dark blue box of $10.6 million in year one. That fluctuates year over year. And then our red box of operations, that's our operational loss of $4.2 million per year. The last slide in this is the pro forma itself, which are just the actual numbers that went into the slide prior to this, which further shows annual revenues, annual expenses, and our debt service payments. That bottom row would be the total investment from the town of $14.7 million in year one and growing year over year.
Okay. Anyone make any other comments before we move to questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if any of the town staff wanted to.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were asking.
No,
us. That's fine.
no, sorry. I mean, Rick, did you or Libby want to elaborate on any of that? And okay.
I think I'll just add quick, there's one little assumption in here that is not so little, but the current revenue from private pay is $600 a day. This model has us, when we're in the new facility, having a private pay rate that better reflects the average cost per bed, and it starts at $800. It's $800 a day in pro forma.
To get it to cover the cost.
No, I mean, it just, yes. I mean, yes, to get it closer to covering the cost of running the facility. But the important part is that it goes we have to get it from 600 today to 800 by the time we open the facility.
Right. So that's an unknown.
Maintain the percentage of private pay.
Great. All right. Do we want to go for some questions now?
I just have one question. Medicare reimbursement rates that are using here, are they adjusted for the actual current ones which are being lowered or lower than the big beautiful bill?
I think that would be a question for Tom at CLA.
Yep. Today, Medicare rates are around 770 to 780. So it's a very conservative increase to get it up to $800 in the first year of the pro forma.
Tom, he's talking about the $260 rate.
Yeah.
Oh, on Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Yep. Medicaid, sorry. Yep. Same. Currently they're around 250 to 255. We only increased them to 260, very conservative there. But your point is very valid that Medicaid reimbursement is very uncertain at this point in time. It's difficult to forecast that.
But these do reflect the rates as came through in the big beautiful bill or whatever the heck the bill is. Anyway, do they reflect those rates?
Correct, they do.
Thank you.
Chris, you had your first question, sorry.
Do we still get cherry sheet state revenue
We
for Island Home?
We get what's known as certified public expenditures, CPE. We still get it, yes, but we typically do not include it in our assumptions because the state and I are still having discussions about whether they consider it at this point an ongoing revenue. So it's not modeled.
I know,
into
but they've
this.
been saying that for 6
Well,
years.
that's kind of our argument with
But
them.
can you
but
give the committee a context of the scale of it?
About Bob or Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong, but on average, if they pay every year, it's about 1.5 to 1.7 a year, depending on the cost, depending on the reimbursement methodology. So
They don't do it every
But
year.
we show it as, it would be non-ops revenue. is that
it would
what we're
be, it would come in, it would go right into retained earnings, which is, so yes. Yeah.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification back on the question about Medicaid, just to there is no way to predict, but the current impact is really on community Medicaid, not on long-term care Medicaid. So you hear these things about work requirements, et cetera, et cetera. It's so far, it's not an impact. There's two different buckets. We get what's called long-term care Medicaid, separate application. The impact you're talking about, yes, is on community Medicaid, but so far not impacting our rates. As a matter of fact, the state of Massachusetts actually improved the funding just for nursing homes to try to offset any potential decreases for now. I just want to clarify that.
Bob, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do you know what the average private pay rate is for other nursing homes in Massachusetts?
Yeah, they generally run in the $500 to $600 range. We did a competitive analysis based on Cape Cod, but they're all struggling with similar issues in terms of their potential rate increases.
Right.
Yeah, at $830,000 a month, there's not a lot of people who can afford private pay. Even if you have insurance, it doesn't pay 100% of private pay usually.
Yeah.
It's usually way less than 100%. So people get rid of their assets before they go into the nursing home, distribute it to their family, go to the nursing home on Medicare, get $700 or $800 a month until it runs out, and then they're on Medicaid. And that's the formula. And it's going to keep going that way unless something big happens, which I don't see. So it's kind of it's a challenge.
There wasn't some of the thinking in doing a larger, having more beds, wasn't that kind of in the thought process was to have a little bit more private pay? I think it's what the advanced therapy rooms were.
We would take as much private pay as we can get, just getting the private.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying there was thinking behind it. I hear what you're saying. Don?
Well, I would just add that I think the thinking is that there would be more people short term.
Yeah.
Who would be in there for rehab in a private room with their own bathroom, and then Medicare would pay for it. They would do a shift to Medicaid.
We get people like Peter come to ours.
Yeah. I was in there for 7 weeks, but I didn't come here because
Out of the shower.
They get that, but they also
Like
tell you to get a nursing home near your family. And it was easy because my son was out there, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a challenge. And the one I was in was no bargain, let me tell you. I mean, the building and everything, the people were very nice, but there's no bargain.
That's what I have some questions.
Joanna.
Part of what I want to understand is like about the patient mix. So if we have these 45 rooms, are we going to be able to do things like rehab, things like inpatient dialysis, like rehab from like hip replacement, things like inpatient dialysis, things like memory care? Is it going to serve all of those needs? It is.
Yes.
And so if it gets,
Right, we don't do inpatient dialysis.
Correct.
That's a whole different thing.
Right.
It's something we could talk about. That's not.
okay, well, I'm just curious about how in terms of the nursing home working. And so if you're gonna take care of all of those things, then how is it decided who gets to be there? So, you have the list, right? Like what's the application process? Because as we talk about this, obviously you're gonna want more private pay people, right? So do they go to the top of, like, how does that work?
So
private does not go to the top of the list. As a Medicare and Mass Health provider, we have to look at everybody equally. So it goes down to what is their clinical need and can they financially support their stay at the facility, whether it's private, Mass Health or Medicare.
So somebody's evaluating this before, like, so say my, my mom or dad, like I've come to the point where I need to put them in a home like this. I might, there's two kinds of customers, right? Someone who's gonna come to that realization immediately because there's an event,
Yes.
right? And then someone who's seeing a decline,
Yes.
right? So that person could plan for it, but the acute person, like, they have to come to you with their emergency.
And we get both. We get both.
I will say, based on what happens in a new building, we have something that's called a lease up program that's 9 to 12 months prior to opening in many cases. So what you do end up having, and this happened in Martha's Vineyard, for example, hopefully best case scenario is you end up with a waiting list for, let's say, private pay. So it becomes more of a juggling exercise. Right now, we've been able to accommodate everybody. And that's the benefit. All the acute care, short-term rehab comes at the Medicare rate, the private come at the private rate. And the magic is in maximizing those two buckets. And that's where the projections on the revenue increases will come. The theory is we'll increase both. We'll get people like Peter Schaefer that want a private room with a shower instead of staying off island. Honestly, those numbers will increase. We've seen it already. And the private pay will increase through our marketing efforts. And the experience we've had with other facilities that have gone through this transition to all private, single private rooms, both of those things increase fairly significantly.
And what about the experience of the number of rooms for the size of the community? Like there's gotta be a ratio for the appropriate number of nursing home rooms to the size of our
They
community.
factored in population growth, that was part of the number.
Yeah, this was all factored in, yeah.
It's greater than zero though. It's greater than zero though.
Well, yes. But I mean, it seems to me that 45 rooms is not enough for
Well, bear in mind, we have the capability to upsize by 12 beds. There are specifically 12 rooms that were double room for semi-private. And that's kind of an automatic approval through, you don't need a separate determination need. You can increase either 10% or 12 beds, whichever is greater.
And what happens if somebody is not, like they're sicker than what our hospital can support and they have to go to Boston? What happens to their room? Does it go to somebody else?
So they have the option depending on their payer source. We do a bed notification that they're being transferred. The family, if they're private pay, can continue to pay privately for their room. Or they would choose not to, but we would reconsider them for returning. If you are Mass Health pays for 20 days to hold your bed at the facility. Medicare, you cannot be Medicare in both places, so the family would have to determine that. But we also have most of the people that get thrown off and go out are long-term community members. We anticipate their return, so we will, try and hold that for as long as we can.
So back to my question about the patient mix, like specifically, so if you have let's just use the number 40 because it's round.
Yeah, I like round numbers.
So 10% of these beds are held for like rehab, 10% are held for like memory care. Like how does that?
They're not technically, I think honestly, I've been doing this for a long time. The beauty of our current building is we've been able to do all of it fairly well. And it's just it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
If you get, that would be a good thing for us to be able to get to, let's say we're at 42 or 43 all the time. At that point, we would then have to figure out how to prioritize. But right now, we've been able to accept everybody. And it turns out, again, we'll be as high as 8 to 10 Medicare. We've already seen that happening. So that the goal is then to keep that consistent. And then you hit your metrics that we're talking about.
And your long-term patients can turn into Medicare Medicare patients. So if somebody is a long-term
because they've
patient
gone
and
through all
they've
their-
gone out and then they come back,
Yeah.
that changes their payer source.
But my understanding is that Medicare, correct me if I'm wrong, Medicare payments for physical therapy expire at a certain period of time, don't they?
once you are not clinically making gains or you exhaust your 100 days.
That's 100 days.
Well, it's not always a guaranteed 100 days. It depends on your clinical ability to make gains.
And, but for and then so Medicare reimbursed for staying in a nursing home separate from that payment? In other words, so there's one payment for physical therapy, right?
No,
Is there-
it's
all inclusive,
it's
yes.
an all
Separate.
inclusive.
Once you're mad at
Yeah.
it, it's all, yeah.
But you can, afterwards, you can get physical therapy paid for by Medicare, regardless of where
Medicare
you're
being,
staying. Yeah.
right, it would be a different payer source.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to encourage us to like stay focused on this pro forma, by the way, this is the information that's new, I'm happy to ask Bob more questions, but. Tom's here now, and I think if you guys want to talk to him about what went into this and the thinking behind it, such as I'd like to know about the 93% occupancy rate and compare that to what's. You know, what it is now, which I think you can weigh in on.
That
Bob.
was actually my next.
Okay, go for it.
I was gonna
Then
say,
we're good.
what is what's the average occupancy over the past 5 years, say, and what's your waiting list look like right now?
So I think historically we've been between 82 to 86% occupancy over time, but
How much?
82 to 86%.
But this year you have a lot.
That's it.
This year you went up a lot in the
We've
last
gone
6
up
months.
last year.
Since you took over, Bob.
I'm
I
sorry.
feel like
Oh, well,
since you
yeah.
took over it.
So just to give you some numbers, 2025, we go by aggregate numbers. We had as many as, I think we're up to 49 admissions, total admissions. The reason it's hard to answer your question, these are up and down numbers. So when you get short-term people, they come, they go, so their length of stay is different, but the total number of patient days is increasing, which is a good thing. So we were up to 49 admissions 2025 compared to the low 30s in 2024. We're increasing already in speaking to what what it's aspirational to get to the 100%, but we're already seeing an increase in all hospital admissions from off island that we didn't really have before. Our number of admissions from the whole Brigham and Women's Network to MGB has gone up considerably as we're doing more short-term rehab patients, all except Peter. But and so we had 48 admissions and 49 discharges, which is an interesting, that's a real dramatic shift. The facility historically had been more long-term care patients, so as a percent, which would be Medicaid, that was always higher. We're seeing a real shift over time, and we budgeted, I think, off island, generally across the state, average occupancies are close to the 90, and Tom can answer that as far as what they're looking at. But 93% is a very strong goal for a new startup, a new facility. It's something that sort of across the board in industry standard. That's what we hope to hit.
Well, that is the question for Tom.
Yeah.
What is the?
Can I just say one thing? A brand new facility, state of the art, is gonna attract a lot of people that aren't using it now. There's a load of people on this island that have relatives or themselves that are in nursing homes off island. I have to say that if we had that kind of facility, it would be a totally different mix than we have had before, and a totally different number of people. We'd have waiting lists. No
Yeah, but
question.
well, I've got a question about that for you. What about the private pay? Because $800 is like double what people are paying off island.
It's true.
It's not.
I mean, I looked up and it said $440. You're saying it's $560. Maybe Tom can weigh in on that.
I wanna know.
But those are also
average-
private nursing homes
And
and
what's the average occupancy in Massachusetts? Like for a nursing home?
I know I was just talking about the per diem.
I think he's gonna answer both questions.
Thanks. Tom. Tom, could you
When I
please
was at
weigh in?
Brigham, I had to wait at Brigham for another day because there wasn't a bed available in a nursing home. And there was 2 nurses they're looking at. So they had to pay, I don't know, $2,000 for me to stay at Brigham rather than go to the nursing home. It's crazy.
Tom, do you want to answer those, please?
Yeah. For the state average occupancy, you're looking around 92, 93%. So that's the first answer. The Medicare rates in the state are $700 for the state is the average, $707 per day. So the thought of this being $28, $29, the $800 is reasonable. Rates are increasing 3% a year, typically 2 to 3% a year. Yeah, it is. I mean, compared to existing state of 82 to 86% occupancy, it is a goal for our island home, but I completely agree with the fact that it's a more attractive new facility, there is a factor there that it makes it just more attractive for people to move into. In comparison, yeah.
Yeah, Nate, go ahead.
If you talk about, I mean, one thing that worries me a little bit about some of the scenario planning always is the sensitivity in the analysis, right? And I think about, you've got in here your labor increase, expenses increase, 4% to wages, 10% to obviously OPEB, and then probably medical insurance, understood. 4% to me seems super light in this space, healthcare. I would have expected it to be between 5.5 and 7 on wages.
I don't see that number as frequently. Now, to your point, Nantucket, being in Nantucket, there might be an additional cost there. We're typically seeing 3 to 4% across the board for wages throughout the country.
This is the most expensive place in all of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
so
you're looking at 5.5%
There's a housing problem.
in this scenario.
Yeah. That's gonna.
So these things, you know, that let's say this even at 4%, 3.3 to 4%, that's what I would have seen in normal wages across normal roles and responsibilities. This is healthcare, so the specialized care. Sorry, I'll come in a second, right? So the specialized care there and the sensitivity to the calculation overall makes that could make this become exponentially, significantly more expensive if that's wrong. I think that's kind of where I find, to me, I think some of these things in here are super conservative.
Well, it sounds like, what I'm hearing from you, Tom, it sounds like you did use the nursing homes throughout Massachusetts as your baseline. Yeah.
Correct.
Done.
Just on that, the wage increase this year in the union contract, which we're now negotiating a new union contract, was 3.5.
All there's anyone working there under the union contract? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they?
Joe.
Emotionally, I think this is the right thing to do. Financially, and this is a finance committee, and I'm a financial person. We're being asked to approve $124 million of borrowing to incur $240 million of losses over 15 years. That's basically, in simple terms, what this is about. If you add up the annual losses that this facility will have, it totals over 15 years about 240. I can't tell whether it's 46 or 41, but it's roughly double the amount of the borrowing. And to me, that's not an investment that makes any sense. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't make sense. And Tom, as a finance person, I'd be interested in your comments.
Well, he might not want to in on that.
They weren't really hired to
They could do
comment
that.
on it. They were hired, they
It's
weren't
okay.
hired to make a comment on it. I think they were hired to give an independent,
Yeah.
produce a pro forma independently for people to review, I think is what the crux of their scope of services was. I think it's,
Okay.
so.
And from day one, we said this is not gonna work financially, it only works emotionally, so.
Yeah, I mean, let's do the sewers next to the schools and all the other pieces too that we spend money on.
Well, that actually does factor in because that's a lot of borrowing in the future, which you all saw that you have in the collision, the list of projects in the next 10 years too.
Right, but none of them are a good financial investment, right? We're not in the corporate finance business, we're in the public service business.
Yeah, but this is a subsidy for people for $351,000 for one person every year. This is $3 million for a bedroom.
It's almost
John?
$100,000 a person if you include the law. A year.
John, go ahead.
I would phrase the question in a different way for all of you. And that is, if the community has decided that this is a priority, as we are already doing this, is this the most financially feasible way to continue to make this a community priority and continue the services that we are already doing?
But the subsidy per person now is what, 128,000 per year?
Don't we give them $5 million a year?
I think it's at 4.
5 plus, whatever, yeah, I mean.
37 into 5.
Okay, do we know, maybe Rick, do we know what the subsidy per person is right now? 128,000? I feel like I've seen that.
Rick, you're muted
That's still
if
not
you're-
the question, because we can't keep the current facility running.
Yeah, it's about.
I understand. I'm a financial guy and we're a finance committee.
Yeah.
It emotionally, I think it's the right thing to do. Financially, I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense.
But when you take on the debt service, then that's when it goes up to 351,000.
And it's going to increase the 240 million of losses. The tax rate's gonna have to go up to finance them. The tax rate's gonna have to go
Well,
up.
I mean, the debt service is a
So
debt
we can-
exclusion, so it's automatically it's gonna be raised outside the levy limit, just like every other debt exclusion that we do, right? So I don't call the debt service a loss because, I mean.
No,
but
you
you still have to go to every person who's gonna vote on this and say, by the way, we're gonna be spending essentially 17 million. Ultimately 17 million bucks a year.
Some of which they've already agreed,
Between the
right?
subsidy, which never goes away, never, even with all these great and 93, 95% occupancy, good mixes, it doesn't go away. And you're gonna carry that across the board, right? So now you're looking at, I think the question is not, it's not respect for your question. I think the question is different. I think the question is, to what extent is this town prepared to spend, let's say, or 10% of its operating budget per year just on maintaining this home for 45 people?
I think there has to be some sort of a solution that may not be as nice as being in Nantucket or as nice as being where Sherburne Commons is, but is acceptable and reasonable and nice. I think I would have been happier if someone had said to the committee, you have $50 million. You have to do it in that envelope. I don't think we did enough work on different alternatives.
To design to the dollars. Yeah. I hear
We
that.
did a lot of work on alternatives. I mean, I don't think that's true.
What alternatives did you look at?
Going back to the beginning, the alternatives to the building, how the size of the building's gonna be, where it's gonna be.
No, did you look at a building in Hyannis?
No.
No.
And by the way, you have to remember, we're not looking for alternatives now. If this doesn't pass, it's done. We're not gonna have a nursing home.
No, I would argue that it would be worthwhile looking at other alternatives, but that's just Joe.
Did, Rick, can you tell us, or Brian, sorry, when the override will need an override? When the debt exclusion will need another debt exclusion? Is that year 7?
You mean, when will the override, when will we have to go back to the voters for an override to continue the operations?
Mhm.
I believe it's in year 7 in this forecast, but that this is purely. You know, CLA, I think, did a really great job of understanding our expenses and the revenues that we had, and we gave them the debt service, and it does show in year 7, I believe it is, we would cross over and need an additional override to continue it for.
When will we need it for all other town services?
In the next year or two, likely, is when we're gonna be discussing potentially. I think town administration and myself have been very clear during the budget process that we are headed on an operational side for government services. We're going to need one in the near future. So that's the reality of the situation in terms of operational expenses on the island of Nantucket.
So we have that too. We don't just have the collision projects. but
This
we
is the
have
point in the
this.
meeting where I point out that Nantucket voted against Proposition 2.5 by a 2-to-1 override.
That was interesting. Why don't you
Because we
explain that to
absolutely knew
everybody?
it was wrong for this island. Overrides are a feature, they are not evil.
Right. But that to your point, Jill, it is year 7 to the chair of the select board's point. There is likely one going to be coming in the future for operational expenses for municipal government.
So wait, so are you saying that we should just expect overrides?
I am not making any comment other
Okay.
than that we've been very clear that we are going to need one, and we agree that this projects one in year 7 for the island.
Jill, can you just comment on like the capital forecast for the town, right? So on this particular go around of town meeting, we have this article, we have the sewer article, we have some school dollars that we're looking at. But if you, I mean, can you just talk about what's coming, say all of that passes? What does the capital forecast look like for the next 5 years and what position does that put us in?
Well, Brian can probably tell us better. I mean, you can go and look at your tax calculator and know what your taxes are gonna be.
Yes.
If you vote for everything. But what the sheet that you've been given that they put together, that Brian's been working on the collision projects is, it's at 1.1 billion. That includes our island home, right? I don't know that all those projects are gonna move forward. My guess is if this passes, a lot of those projects are gonna have to wait, or I don't know. I don't know if the coastal resiliency projects are emergencies, right? I don't know. So
I just think it's
I don't know
important
if there's
for the
gonna be a new
context.
middle school. They've been saying that for a while. I don't know if that's actually coming forward. That's not being designed, but it's being talked about. And those are the biggest projects, I think. But you know, I mean, capital, we did look, I think our committee, I think Don would agree, looks at things holistically, like, I think that's why some of the bigger projects didn't pass in our report. You all passed them anyway, which is why I tried to argue with you last week about it, but that's okay. But that's gonna happen every year because you're looking at everything individually. That is sort of the privilege of, I think, being on Capital and being on FinCom, is that you get to look at it more collectively and you can see what's coming and know, but that's just not how town meeting works. People say, I like it, I don't like it. I mean, if on the ballot, they don't put a dollar figure on there. Right? Oh, Jeremy?
I guess I see us with this project serving 50 people, maybe a few more every year. So that's 500 people over a decade. And so maybe 500 people for $250 million. It just doesn't work. The numbers are just too big. And, you say, well, the other projects that we are looking at, they serve lots of people and maybe they don't make sense. But, I think the sewer that we just looked at last week is $44 million, and one small component of it will touch 440 homes. And then it's general infrastructure for a large part of the island. So I think getting back to part of what the CapCon committee, I think, is looking at holistically, we really, unfortunately, have to look at how many people will $250 million touch. That's what we're being asked for. And I think at 500 people, maybe it's 600 or 700 people, but it sounds like it's 500 people in a decade on a year-round population of 25,000 and growing. Just demographically, I just don't see that this makes sense.
Jeremy, you're not counting the families of these people.
And the employees.
You're in there, you're in a nursing home, you'd have 5-6 people at least coming to see you over a period of time. That's important. Plus the 60 employees that work there and their families. So it's much more than just counting it room by room. I know it's easy to do it that way, and it's something mathematically we like to do as bankers, but you can't look at it this way. It's too frustrating to look at it that way because it's not gonna work. We admit that. We're just saying you have to we're looking for an investment in the people who live here.
But can I ask you a question about that? And I really mean this, because it's heartbreaking. I don't think any of us wanna not have it. I don't know anybody on the committee that doesn't want it. The capital committee was the same. But there has to be some cost where you are looking at this and thinking, we can't do it. I mean, is this at any cost? There must be some cost in your mind that you're okay. So you're okay with $351,000 per person per year as a subsidy. You're okay with that. I hear that. But is there a point where you're not? Because that's just what we know. The operating is what we don't know. They can make projections, but the operating keeps going up. That keeps the deficit of the operating keeps going up. That we know. We hope they can close that gap, but I think they were trying to be conservative in making these projections based on the losses they have now.
I was on the board, Madam Chair, of the largest retirement home company in Canada for 5 years. And long-term care, you can't make a profit in Canada. It's an equation that doesn't work.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification, I am not to take away from a financial issue, but, I think we have to get out of our head, it's not a 45 fixed number of people, because as we increase short-term people coming
Yes.
in and out, just for the record, I think we served about 90 people in total last
year.
in a year's period. So as you increase, and again, I understand your financial, I just want to make sure you understand it, it's gonna, the number of individuals treated over the years as the short-term census increases, you will continue to increase as well. You'll have more in and outs as you and not to mention the increase to the 57 beds potentially. So just a point of clarification.
Okay,
that's all.
thanks, Bob, that's important.
Yeah, I think a better indication of the number of people that are touched by this facility is the amount of support this project has
Yeah.
in the community, despite the ridiculously formidable financial challenge. Totally take your point, right? The numbers here are whack job numbers. On the other hand, if you look at the people who are voting for this, who are stepping up, you can see how many people the reason they're doing it is because they've been touched by this facility in one way or another. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
But it's interesting to look at the the survey that was done. And there weren't but 50% of the people that thought this was a good thing to do on the island,
Right, but 50% is a lot more than 45 people.
but it's not 75%.
2/3.
I think that the dynamics have changed since that survey. Just like the amount of people that showed up to voice their opinion about the nursing home, and we had that forum in the wherever we had it in the community center. Yeah, it's, listen, surveys are surveys, and you can look at them and say what you want to do. The real survey is gonna be when we vote on it, and that's gonna be the survey. I mean, it really doesn't matter what surveys are.
And it came close last year.
Yeah.
We spend what, $35 million on the school budget, roughly? 46, okay, so we spend $46 million on the school for roughly 1,800 kids. And we're gonna spend $17 million on, say, 45 rooms, 90 people.
We live 30 miles at sea.
I understand.
We have to do things differently than they do elsewhere.
I
That's
do
all.
understand this.
I think that this whole issue of the people is more than just, I think it's a very, very tough message to deliver to the town.
Yeah.
That we're no longer gonna support aged people, and I think one of the corollaries of that, look, we had dinner with 6 people the other night, it was last night, as a matter of fact. One of the people, I Island Home came up as a heated conversation. And everybody.
It's everything.
I might add that the 5 of 6 have already committed. But anyway, but someone made the point that everybody sitting at that dinner table could be in our Island Home tomorrow. If that isn't an option, and someone goes to our Island Home tomorrow, the point is not just family members. People are gonna leave this island. They're gonna leave this island because they can't provide support to them. And now the question is, I'm making this a little bit dramatic, but where are they gonna go? My understanding is there's nowhere on the Cape to go right now. The places are full. Those people end up in Worcester, Mass. They're gonna end up in the Western Massachusetts where there's space available. So we get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. I live in Hyannis. Someone says your loved one in Western Massachusetts is just taking a turn. Maybe you should get here as fast as you can. 3 o'clock in the morning, that person goes down, gets in their car, and they drive whatever it is to get there, but they're on their way. If you're in Nantucket and the call comes at 3, first, you've got to charter a plane, hope the boat's running and you're going to make it. And secondly, you're going to there's a real chance you may not get there. And so I think that my real question for this, so if we decide not to go out and down to our Island Home, what services are we as a community going to provide to that part of the community, that aged community that needs this nursing service? What are we going to do? Just say sorry? I'm very confused. This is a terrible financial proposal. I have no argument about that. But the emotional side of this to me is really, really something. And then maybe it's because my age, maybe I could be there.
We're all going in the same direction.
Yeah,
To make that, I've had to make that drive out to the Berkshires to see people in a nursing home, and it's 5 hours, right?
If you get off the island.
Yes, it is, but you get on this 7:40 ferry, you get to there at 8:40, and on a good day, I can be there by noon.
I think again,
Where do you go?
Probably 20?
20 times a year that way?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think for our
That's good.
purposes, so you still, and I wanna have the discussion about how it's hard, because it's hard.
It's hard.
It is. It's, but there, at what point, at what percentage of our budget do we wanna spend on this? I mean, that is an unknown.
I'm looking at this, which is the collision report. And there's $1 billion, without our Island Home, there's $1 billion.
That's just in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I think Ryland Home's supposed to be around a lot longer than that. So there'll be more.
Yeah, we do a great job taking care of the kids in this line, and there's money we put into the schools, the Boys and Girls Club, et cetera. You know, what do we do besides the senior center, which certainly is pretty cool. What do we do for the seniors on this island? And there's a lot of them here, and that's the fastest growing segment of the population. I'm Nantucket.
And this other thing that disturbs me is that if we don't, it sounds as if town to town is gonna say, if we don't pass it, we're done. I mean.
Well, that's not.
Well.
We can't say that. I mean, there has to be.
No, we said that.
We
said done.
we have
said
to,
that.
yeah.
And then again, I think the other question I would ask, has anybody sat down and looked at this? Is very, very hard as a way to reduce costs through changing, as I understand, you're stuck with this being a public project. So donations to it can never get a tax deduction. Are we gone to Wall Street to find out if anybody can find a clever way for us to get around that? To get funding for this? To get someone to raise $100 million? I mean, you did it for the hospital.
Yeah, but the problem is the hospital affects everybody.
I
The same as-
understand that,
yeah.
but you-
No, we wish we agree 100%.
Just one point of clarification, Madam Chair. Gifts to a municipality, the IRS generally has determined can be tax deductible if it's for a public purpose. You would have to, we always recommend people consult their tax accountant for confirmation, but the IRS statute does say that there is an exemption, tax deduction ability for gifts to a municipality provided for a public purpose. I'm just letting you know that there is.
I don't think that's the challenge in raising the money. I don't think it's the non-tax deductibility. I think the challenge is 50% of the community showing up at town meeting and saying, I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Somebody else pay for it. Right. That is the conundrum that this project faces. I think you would find among sort of the donor class of Nantucket, seasonal residents, they don't mind paying for this on their taxes, but they don't want to pay for it without their neighbor paying for it.
So you're saying.
I don't know what you mean by that, sorry.
I'm saying that I think they would be fine with their tax component of this, of whom most of them are gonna pay the most of it, right? Because that's where.
The rounding error for most of them on a bad day.
Well, exactly right. And they're the ones who are gonna pay for most of this project.
Correct.
And I don't think you would find much of a pushback from that perspective. You would find a pushback from them saying, the community doesn't want to do their small part? Why are you asking me?
It's not a small part, Chris. It's a big part. $350 million is the cost of this facility.
Of which the seasonal residents
$350 million.
are gonna pay the bulk of that through their property taxes. Look, I think-
You wanna make that a finer point than that? I mean, does it really, so that really matters to you about where that money comes from?
No, my point is, my point was on the fundraising perspective,
Gotcha.
with the donor classes. I think you asked a great question, right? If it was $1 billion, would people still be here saying we're doing it right? There has to be a number.
There's
we
gotta
can
be a
say.
number
So
that you're comfortable, you're not comfortable,
You know,
maybe comfortable with this one.
What I hear a lot of people say is, oh, I really care deeply about this. I'd love to do it, but we just can't afford it. But then I don't hear any context about what we can and we can't afford. And I do sit here.
I agree
And
with you.
and so that is a very tough argument for me to buy into. You know, the Island Home was founded in what, the 1870s or something, in the worst depression era of Nantucket. And here we sit in the Gilded Age where people are pushing $20 million mansions into the sea, on the scene to build them, and we can't find a way to support the old people on Nantucket. That part of it is very difficult to me. There are a lot of sliders we haven't looked at, right? We sit here with 100% headroom on the local exemption, right? It's their decision, not our decision. But I think it could really be looked into with a lot of analysis about what should that headroom be used for, and what does that create, and what projects as we shift the tax burden. Now, there's a lot of unintended consequences in there, because if you push some of that burden to commercial, it could come back in rent, right? It's a complicated question, but there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle here in terms of what Nantucket can afford. And I don't hear that argument. All I hear is, love old people, we just can't afford it. And no one's giving me the context to really actually reach that conclusion.
Well, I mean, so you think we can afford the operating deficit indefinitely with unknowns? I mean, they projected this based on 93% occupancy, right?
Mhm.
We don't know if we can get that. It sounds like you're gonna offer other services so that you probably are, and it will be a new facility. So I don't think it's completely,
Waiting this time, I think.
but to me, I've just always had a problem with running a deficit.
Super challenging. Well, again, we run a deficit in everything. If we weren't running a deficit, then somebody else would come in and run it as a business, right? That's why we're looking at it as a municipal project.
Well, that's why they like keep asking me why we can't do that.
Right, so of course it runs a deficit. But the question of, we can't afford it, frankly, as a municipality, we can afford it. If we pay for this and we cover that subsidy, nothing bad's happening to Nantucket. Real estate market isn't crashing because of real estate rates. Unlike many communities, we actually can afford this. Now, we may not want to. Many of the people here, many of the voters may decide, I don't want to. I'm buying into all the arguments about the number of people it touches, and that's not a good equation. It's not something I want to invest in. But the question of we can't afford it. Not true.
Well, let me ask you this. So do you think there are some projects on the collision project list that you would say, hey, I don't think we should put those forward in the next 10 years so that we can do this?
Well, there's an awful lot of unknowns on that list. I think you would agree similarly.
Yeah, there's some. I'm just asking if you looked at it and thought, hey, I don't think we'll do this or that. I mean, I'm not holding you to it, Chris.
Well, I mean,
like, hey, there's $500 million there and I don't think we'll ever do that, so I'm not worried about
again
it.
and again, the voters every year make that decision, right? We bring stuff that we think is gonna fly through. And then the voters decide they don't want to do it. right?
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, can we make a decision without knowing what the actual cost is?
You mean the fixed bid?
Yeah.
I mean, do we think it's gonna be that different, Don?
It's gonna be so.
Well, and I think, Madam Chair, John Lemieux is here and he can probably give you a little bit of context since we are started the trade bids right now. As is part of this, so I think it'd be appropriate for him to answer that.
Sure, John. You wanna weigh in on timing?
Sure. I'll weigh in just with what we know. I will tell you that where we are right now, we've received a small part of the bids back in for the subcontractors. And compared to where we were at this time last year, we're no worse off than we were. Now, that is not me saying that this number is going to come back the same, but I think we've seen a little bit of softening in the market, right? And that softening in the market, on 30 miles to the north of you is being reflected in bids that are coming in lower. That being said, there's escalation every year. So I'm hopeful that it's going to be no worse than what was submitted last year. And again, with just a handful of the subs so far, that's where we are. It was different subs, some that were higher were lower this year, some that were lower last year were higher, but in aggregate, feel pretty good that we are at least holding steady. But again, it's not enough for me to, I am uncomfortable going any further past that because we still have, if last year we had subs that totaled 75 million or so, we're only about 20% through that process right now. Because just like last year, we had a series of subs that came in over budget. Consiglia is rebidding those. And then the other half of the subs that we don't specifically put out to bid, that they go and shop themselves, that process is ongoing as well. It's the sum of all of those things, plus their own self-perform work, that adds up to that $89 million number that we had last time.
Don, when are the bids supposed to be in?
The bids, it's a kind of a rolling schedule, Rick, between now and the end of the month. The goal was to have a GMP from Guaranteed Maximum Price from Consigli the end of the last week of March. They wanted to wait till April. We said it can't have an April in it. It's that conundrum of you have to bid the job close enough to town meeting so that the bids don't go stale, but yet give the town enough time to have the number to be able to have the discussion. Those two things are diametrically opposed to each other at times just because of how long subs are willing to hold their number. We pushed it about as far as we could. We pushed it, I believe, 60 working days to account for getting it in, having the run up to town meeting, and then having the time to contract after the fact And by the time, if it was a favorable town meeting and a favorable ballot, to then say to consigliere, okay, go, start making phone calls, right? So all of those things have to play together.
Thank you, John. Okay, so we've had a lot of discussion and we've discussed about the things that we're due, right? So I don't know if you all want to move forward with the motion or you want to sleep on it and we could do it tomorrow. But I think the information that we have that's new, I don't think there's gonna be a lot more new information based on what John's saying. If this goes 10% either way, is that gonna change your vote? I don't know, but probably.
10%.
No.
It's not a small number.
No?
Would it change your vote? No. And if we were able to, a big piece of money for the land, you're not gonna be able to get, and you threw that in too. So maybe we're at 15%, but would that make a difference?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the economics of this are gonna change greatly by getting the bid numbers. I think I think this is a very difficult decision for everybody, and a lot of it's based on how you want to view life. What are the values of human life? I'm sorry, but I think someone said we don't do a lot for old folks on the island. Boy, this is gonna be a pretty ugly message, and it's a big retirement community too. Just aside from getting a lot of happy people coming here.
You don't need it till you need it. That's what it is, you know? You don't. But I never thought I was gonna be flying out of here on a helicopter or staying in a nursing home. Never in my wildest dreams at this stage of my life, but it did. So, you know, it's.
Unfortunately, we can't afford to be everything to everybody. I've had to put parents into homes that are down in Virginia. When I lived in South Africa, I've put people into different places when I'm having my choice to come to the one Nantucket. With all of its wonders and opportunities and disadvantages of not being able to get off island quickly if you need to for certain things. Joanna, 20 times a year off, I do the same thing. Unfortunately for me, my parents of both sides are all now passed on, so no longer need to drive to Virginia basically once every few months to go and see them. But that's also something that I'm prepared to do. And so for me, when I look at this overall, I see both sides. It's an emotional pull for certain, I get it. But I also look at the overall cost of it just never goes away. It doesn't get cheaper, it doesn't come to an end, it just gets exponentially and over time it gets more and more and more expensive. And there's a point in time we've got to say, like, are we prepared to continue to spend 10% plus of the operating budget of the island for this one topic? And I know it's an ugly message, but I personally, I don't need to sleep on it at all. And maybe it would help me get over kind of that angst I'm feeling, but on the differences, right? The personal versus what we are here as finance committee to do, which is weigh in on the financial outdoor landscape and what the implications are for this island over time. And from that perspective, I know exactly where I'm going. I mean, well, I'll definitely sleep with my decisions, put that way. Not on it, but with it.
I mean, this is a tough decision to make. I mean, we're not pleasing anybody by making a vote either way, which is the reality of it. And there's not, I mean, unfortunately, I don't really feel like there's not a backup strategy, right? There's not an alternative that's present. And when you look at that collision list, it's very hard to say that if we vote this through, a lot of those projects will not happen, because once we take this on and are committed to this, then many of those things are going to fall away. And that could put us in a position that we can't predict. We just can't.
Right, and those are the big capital items. That's just not talking about the regular annual general fund and enterprise fund capital too.
I mean, what's the percentage of this budget has increased over the last 10 years?
I think since 2019, we went from, was it?
I know this was just in the news and I forgot the percentage.
From 120 to 170 since 2020.
Yeah. So now we're going to put $71 million on top of that.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt.
Okay, is there a second?
Well, I didn't hear what that was.
Peter made a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
With the
With
Borrowing
Rob.
authorization of 119 and retained earnings in 7, in the amount of 7, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I
As,
understood it,
as, yeah.
because we gotta finalize the wording in
Second.
that, so I just want to make sure.
No second.
Martin made,
Second.
Martin made a second. Okay. Let me write this one down. Might not be as unanimous as the other ones.
I'll do it for you too.
Okay. So Peter, on your motion,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Joanna,
No.
Joe,
No.
Anthony,
No.
Chris,
Aye.
Jeremy,
No.
and Jill's a no. So is that 5 to 3? Rob's not here. Okay. With that, do somebody want to make a negative motion, I guess?
What was the negative motion when you vote against it?
I don't know if we had to do that motion or that's.
I will defer to either Libby or John, but I think there needs to be another motion made on it.
Yeah, it needs to be how it's gonna be printed,
Oh, so what's the motion gonna be?
not to adopt. Instead of instead of printing a vote that shows it's against what your motion was, I think we usually print a motion to reflect what the majority of the committee wanted.
I never remember in the 9 years I've been in this committee as to, maybe we did and I just didn't hear.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Is John on? John, do you?
How do we do this? I don't really remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
So the motion was to adopt
And it failed.
and it failed.
So do we need?
And
to
I
make-
think that might be confusing to the voters if that's all you do. I think I would recommend if someone wants to make a motion either to not adopt or take no action, and that passes, I think that's a clearer message to the voters.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion not to adopt.
Thanks, Jeremy. Is there a
Bill-
second?
Bulletproof glass in your window.
What was that?
And Anthony, so Jeremy, thank you. And Anthony gets the second on your motion, Jeremy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Martin.
No. I'm really confused now. What am?
We're
Not to adopt.
It's not to adopt.
It's a motion to not to adopt.
So it's the opposite of the vote.
So I'm was an aye before.
I think that.
Well, no, we don't.
Yeah.
You need to do
What?
that.
What?
Wait,
Oh, what? He said no, he said yes to adopt it, so you're no now.
I mean, yeah.
Correct.
I'm really confused on this.
No, you're good.
Well,
You're good.
can I just get through this and then we'll explain it? Joe? It's a motion not to adopt,
I abstain.
because you want to wait for the numbers to come in?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
But we're not gonna vote again, are we?
no, we're not.
if we have a motion.
Madam Chair?
If you want to make a comment, you guys could come up with a comment if you want to say that you, okay, can I just finish? If you want to make a comment in the warrant, you can, reflecting your how you don't like this plan, but you want another plan. That's not what the select board's asked us to do this time. I think we know that, but there's nothing to stop the finance committee from doing it. You don't want to have a comment. So, Jeremy is an aye, Anthony is an aye, Joanna is an aye, Martin's a no, Joe abstained. Chris,
No.
and I got Jeremy, yeah. Peter did it, yeah. Peter, sorry, honey.
It's okay.
And Jill is an aye. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 3, and an abstention. So we've got no.
No, it's 4.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. God, I knew I needed to write this.
That's fun.
I know,
I was like, I need to tell myself, okay. I was
do
like,
that, though.
well, Rob wasn't here, and then all of a sudden I was like, what? Okay. All right, the motion to not adopt passes 4 to 3.
Do we want to add a comment?
certainly can. We've done that many times as a committee. Well, I don't think we have any this year so far.
See, to me, I mean, I think the finance committee is gonna look pretty cold to a lot of people in that audience. One of the things you could put in here is a comment that states that this is this is a financial decision as opposed to a decision. I think the capital committee had a comment like that.
We're making a financial decision now on the emotional one. The emotional one is to spend the money and as Chris says, the town can pay for it.
We do? I thought we did.
I was making a financial decision too. I don't think that's appropriate. I was making a financial decision too. I think it's I think it's the right thing for the town to do.
But I think you could make a statement if this price were lower, the finance committee would consider approving it. I don't know what how you want to word something like that.
You gotta create a comment that the majority is gonna support.
Yeah, I have a hard time. The select board asked us to do it based on this. Dawn, go ahead.
I would just suggest that you don't do anything that's gonna confuse the voters.
Yeah, I agree.
If anything, say that it was too great of a subsidy for the finance committee to support it in their role, something like that.
Yeah, well, it was a tight vote, and I know last year we talked about printing our vote in here, which we did not do.
Even if Rob was here and voted for it, it still would have been a 5.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think people know the role of the finance committee. At least I think the people who come to town meeting do.
Right, but it doesn't mean that it still isn't difficult.
Nobody says it was, and if we're asked to say something at town meeting, I'll come up with a comment and I'll say that we're split. We were split last year too. It was 5-4 last year, so I think.
Only the first vote that we did way back, it did pass, just the one.
It did, that's true. And then
So
some numbers came in and I think
Madam Chair, where are we? I mean, the committee voted on whether to adopt and the vote was a no.
Right.
And take no action to me is a wuss.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. No discussion on that.
Yeah. So it was a.
Put it to not adopt.
And it should be that, because it's going to be a ballot question. If it was take no action, it would be very confusing.
That's true. That's a good point.
This is the cleanest way to do it, and it'll be the most easy. It'll be the easiest. Explain at town meeting for the person who has to get up and defend it. Say.
I know you put a lot into it, Dawn. And
Basically what the
I
select
think
board
we're
asked us
we're
to do.
split as the rest of we're split as the rest of the community. I think we reflect the rest of the community pretty well.
And it's going to go to the larger group and.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
No.
I know you've been, every time you sit next to me, you do that. I feel like you're allergic to me.
I'm beginning to think that too.
I am.
Chair.
Do you not cough?
Don't cough at all during the day and then I come here and sit here and I start coughing. No, I like.
Okay, I don't wear scent, so I don't know. All right, guys, let's go to the next one. We are at
Article
18.
18, which Stephen
This
will
is
put
just-
up the
this is
motion.
Operation.
It's just the operations. There was no changes from the 2 days when the representatives of all the enterprise funds came in, so there's been no changes to this to the motion or to the 27 budget totals.
Okay.
And the funding sources are below, which we, I think, did mention as well, so.
And just in general, like how much do you increase that each year for your? Like, this is just from the budget. Yeah, okay, sorry. This is everything we've had.
Yes, you've seen this and we discussed this with all the representatives of the various enterprise funds.
Thanks for coming, Dawn.
Formalizing what we presented to you.
Okay.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Peter?
Aye.
It's the biggest, like, I know, never. Anthony? Joe?
I have no idea what's going on.
We're in the budget.
Abstaining again.
This is all the funding for the enterprise funds. This is the money
This is
that
their
you've
operating
seen when
budget.
we went over all the
Okay.
budget stories. It's the same numbers that you saw, I think. we
All
did that
put
in
in one
January.
place.
Maybe you just.
We're having trouble recovering.
I know, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Go ahead, Joe. You have to make-
Joe is here and I, Martin, okay,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
And Jill's an aye. Great.
I will bring cough drops tomorrow.
I tell you every time.
I know. Sorry.
You're making
No,
me
I
nervous.
just, it makes me wonder about the building as well, or maybe something you doing, I don't know. Getting there as well, thanks.
We're so close. We're on number 19.
This is a capital.
This is capital. And, oh, look at that. Thank you so much.
Of course. Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Thank you. That's enough. We only have like 10 minutes left.
I'm out now. Thank you.
So,
Thank
you.
I enjoy talking about these items.
We are talking, so this is Article 19 is the capital. Stephen, can you scroll to the bottom, go through the
Yeah.
total? This is all the same capital that was in the capital program committee report that you received and went through.
Yeah.
Going. Just a note.
Go back to the yellow.
Okay, so the yellow is language we've added to the sewer article for supplemental funding of $9,250,000 for upgrades to the sewer treatment facility because we are on the intended use plan for 8 million of that to be funded by the state revolving fund program, and that language needed to be added in just to be able to authorize us to accept that money and use it, which will be a little bit lower interest rate than we could borrow on the open market for that. So it's a great benefit to us. And we
Right.
participated in that program on more than one occasion.
Right,
So keep going, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind.
so that number might change.
It will not change. It's just the interest, the split will be 8 million from
Yeah.
SRF at a lower interest rate and the other 1.2 will be at a higher. So $16.5 million, which was recommended by Capital Program Committee. And we
Which is
think
a lot lower than last year.
it is.
I thought last year, did we find it? I kept looking at Joe.
Well, there's the 5 million was for the noise wall was in last year and 4 million was for the water company's PFAS treatment that we had to add so that's about 9 million of it. Right there.
Well, we had a total of 35, but you're saying it was actually nine.
No less.
So it ended up being
Yeah.
26.
Yeah, correct. So we're
Down 10 million. I was very proud of that. Sure, I knew it was gonna be less. Excellent, but I didn't know how you were gonna fund it, everything, so that's why. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And capital's way down too, but we'll do general fund, but we'll do that tomorrow.
We'll do that tomorrow, correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So article,
Move to adopt.
Second.
okay, Martin,
Aye.
Joanna,
Hi.
Joe,
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Jeremy
Aye.
and Jill's and I. Okay,
So we would be doing Article 30 now, Madam Chair, because Article
be
20,
fine.
we're gonna skip just to.
okay, and we'll have to do prior years as well tomorrow as well.
Correct.
Right.
I did send Article 3 to everybody, so that
Okay.
you can.
Thank you. I just wanted to compare it to
I
the
understand.
previous year.
Completely understand. So Article 30 is an appropriation, special purpose stabilization fund for accrued liabilities. This generally funds vacation or sick leave buyouts for people eligible at the airport. We originally thought this was a take no action, but we did find correspondence. Stephen had an email from the airport that they wanted to transfer $100,000 from certified retained earnings into this fund to continue to accrue to cover those expected
Bye, Joel.
liabilities as
Thanks for coming.
people retire and we owe those obligations.
Yep.
Is
Okay.
this severance or is this?
No, so when people retire, they're eligible for their accrued vacation and they're also eligible for a portion of the sick leave buyback. And what we're doing is trying to plan ahead so that we have that
I
liability.
move we approve.
Second.
On your motion, Joe.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Joanna.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Thank you. And last up, 31.
In here, we had originally had discussed a recommendation of take no action, but when we looked at the change on a year-over-year basis. We're recommending 400,000 be transferred into the one created for the town from certified free cash. To
Okay.
continue to try to keep pace with those changes and not put strain on the operating budget in the future. As people retire from town service.
Okay.
Is this against pensions or is it?
Same thing, if for sick leave accruals that for the percentage that would be eligible for the buyout, excuse me, and for accrued vacation. Okay. So we're trying to be proactive so we don't put stress on the operating budget in future years. Yeah.
What's our average free cash level throughout the year?
It's, the average has hovered around probably 13 to 15 million since 2020. No,
Are we doing that tomorrow?
what?
No,
Yeah.
I still move to adopt.
Second.
To approve.
No, thank you.
Okay. And Peter, that was the second,
Yeah.
Anthony,
Aye.
Peter,
Hi.
Chris.
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Joanna. Martin.
Aye.
Joe, and Phil said aye. Thank you. Okay, I think that wraps up today. We're meeting tomorrow. We're gonna see the school tomorrow, another debt exclusion and our budget because we haven't gone over their budget yet, right? And then you still have, several articles to go over tomorrow and Rob Rainey's gonna be here if y'all wanna ask him any questions and get you some information about that and I think that's it. With that, are there any committee reports? No. Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
On your motion, Martin?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Peter? Chris?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Joanna?
Hi.
And Jill's and I. Thank you.
Brian, I had a question for you, just nothing
Or
for the
adjourn.
meeting.